Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Powerful on Purpose, where we talk to amazing and brilliant women who are using their story to build businesses, change the world, and we need a little more of that, don't we? I'm your host, Leslie Capps. I'm the founder of Author in 30, and where we help you gather all your ideas and turn them into a book that can build your business. Today, I'm super excited for this conversation because we're really not sure where it's going to go, but I know it's going to be fabulous. I have with me Lindsay Barnett, and Lindsay is an award-winning author, speaker, workplace experience strategist. That's intriguing, right? And a team coach. So welcome, Lindsay. Excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Leslie. I so enjoyed our initial introduction. So I too am excited to see where this goes.
That's part of the fun. That's the curiosity, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So I always love to start because I'm curious about this as well. What story led you to build a business around being a workplace experience strategist, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm not necessarily familiar with that term either. I mean, I think connect the dots, but
Yeah. I don't know that it's like a frequent job description on Indeed or anything like
I'm not going to say
that. I mean, I think really what it boils down to is I spent decades in the corporate world, more specifically, many of those years in human resources. And really, a lot of the work that I did was working with leaders, working with teams, looking at corporate culture. How do we all shape that? And so really for me, I just boiled that down to, at the end of the day, it's the workplace experience. We can have all these jargony words. I guess workplace experience is probably jargony too. But at the end of the day, what is my experience when I'm at work? So that is really what I'm ultimately trying to help people as individuals, help leaders, teams, and organizations create better experiences in the workplace.
Right. And I think it's something that we don't really talk about or maybe even think we can influence, right? Because it just is what it is. Like 9 to 5, it's a grind, right? Just accept it, don't like it. So how do you help people, leaders, and then maybe individuals too, change that experience of, because I loved you said this earlier, working hell to working well.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And that's the book title, right? How do we go and really figure out how do we empower ourselves as well as empower others? And that's really the leader bit. But at the end of the day, whether you're a leader or not an official leader in title, it is going to start with ourselves, with our own self-awareness, really getting clear on what do we need to get from work? What are our gifts and strengths? How do we set boundaries? How do we be part of a community that comes together to all hopefully share our gifts with the world? And what does that look like? So in a lot of ways, I am helping people through really, in a lot of ways, just having conversations and creating space for connection, either to themselves or connection to others, so that we can bring things out into the open and not just have them be these stories in our head that may or may not be helping us be our best selves or feeling good about the work that we're doing.
Right. What's one example of somebody that you worked with and they were able to make a big shift, whether their team or they themselves as maybe the employee was able to shift the culture?
Yeah. So shift the culture versus
in the work. Right.
Yeah. So I think one of the stories that I like to share that's also in the book is this concept of leaving loudly. And I think for me, we tell ourselves a lot of stories about what's expected of us and, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that. And I happened to be at a conference and I was talking with some other well-being experts and asking them in a lot of ways that exact question of, what does good look like? What are some of the practices that you use that can be observable behaviors for others? And so one person shared with me, well, I make a habit of leaving loudly. And I said, what does that mean? Well, I don't just like sneak out of the office at the end of the day. I declare it and I slam the laptop down. I close the door. I say, good night, everyone, right? And it's this very apparent gesture of, I'm leaving the office. I'm going to go do the life bit now. And there is something really beautiful about role modeling that work is just part of my life. And I'm not here all day, all night, as a true workaholic, but that I am role modeling for others that it's okay to have a life outside of work. And so for me, role modeling is really a big part of taking back our power, right? A lot of the genesis of the book was built on this concept of employees and employers are in this kind of stalemate of, you're responsible for your work-life balance. I don't want to hear about it. And employees are saying, well, you built the system, and so I can't have work-life balance. And then nobody's doing anything. Right. And so for me to say, okay, well, what can I do? And if I can do it in an observable way, then it allows others to recognize it doesn't take so much social and political capital for me to really figure out how to get my needs met.
Yeah, such an important point. And I'm guessing even before that happens, you have to be cognizant of what your needs are, right?
Exactly.
And own those as well.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So what do I need at work? And so for me, one of the things that I came up with that I encourage others to is to come up with, what are your big three? What are the big three needs that work satisfies beyond the financial aspect of working? And so for me, I have what I call my 3 I's. So I need to feel like I have an impact. I need to feel intellectually challenged, and I need to have interaction with adults. I really work for contact and connection. At the end of the day, the money is great, but really it's about working with people that I enjoy. And so knowing those are my needs allows me to kind of reorient, reframe how I think about work so that I'm really noticing I'm not interacting with anybody. And that is a core need. I better start setting up some lunches with people so that I can feel that connection and that human part of being at work with people. So it just gives you a place to start when you can ground yourself in, well, what do I really, really need to experience either meaning or purpose or satisfaction at work?
Right. And I love that concrete example because now we have a better idea of how we could diagnose that ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And start that process. Then how, and I guess you answered that already, right? Then role modeling that, right? I'm connecting the dots here so that other people see you doing that, go, oh, this is a safe place for me to do that.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things we talked about before was this idea of, I don't know that I want to use the word combining, but acknowledging our work and our life, and they're very interconnected, right?
Yeah.
And idea of hobbies and how do we help people's creativity? Because I'll tell you, I'm on fire at 5 a.m. By 2 p.m., not so much, right? So,
Yes.
but that does not really accommodate 9 to 5, right?
Yeah. So I think hobbies to me are a gateway to recognizing that there are other ways to resource yourself. The beautiful thing about hobbies is you don't have to be good at them. Whereas work, right, we feel this pressure to be on, to perform. We're evaluated, right? Most companies have performance management systems. It's all about performance. Hobbies are places where you can relax and enjoy and resource yourself. And this is where that role modeling comes into play, and that leaving loudly. If I can be really upfront with my team that I have to leave at 5 because I'm going to Pilates, that sends a very different message than my sneaking out and going to Pilates. So being upfront with things, making them visible really creates more permission for people to do things that are going to help them regenerate and resource and fill their tank so that when they are working, they are better for it, right? They're feeling more productive. And sometimes our hobbies are things that give us creativity, innovation sparks that inform our work. It's very hard to map it, but I have no doubt that it is happening just from at least qualitative stories from people, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure there's brain studies, right? Hobbies activate a different area of our brain. And so having more use of that brain obviously is going to help us on work.
Yes. Yes, for sure.
Exactly.
For sure.
Do you ever suggest or work with people who want to somehow like incorporate hobby or hobby time or something like that within the workplace?
Yeah. So I'll give you an example of just a coaching conversation that I had that in a lot of ways sparked some of this thinking for me. I had a coaching client who was feeling very overwhelmed by her workload. And so one of the things that we talked about was how she just keeps adding more and more time because she just can't get over the overwhelm. And so I asked her, I said, is there anything that you're doing outside of work to keep your energy levels up? Because it's very hard to keep powering through. You're going to drain your tank. And so she said, yeah, there's something she would like to do, but when can she do it? She would just feel too overwhelmed. And I said, well, let me get this straight. If you don't do it, you feel overwhelmed. And if you do it, you feel overwhelmed. So maybe we just do the thing then, because it's not, we're still going to feel overwhelmed, but maybe we've got a shot if we at least pursue something that can nourish us, that can recharge us a little bit more. Over time, I've got to believe that the work is never going away. There is always going to be more work to do than we technically have time to do it all in. So we've got to be resourceful. And part of being resourceful is knowing how do we resource ourselves, mind, heart, body, energetically speaking, so that we can do at least most of the things that we need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. It triggered a question, which then flew out the window, right? But I think it's this idea of burnout, because I'm sure you deal with that as well.
Yeah.
And advising leaders, how leaders then handle burnout among their staff.
Yeah. Yeah. Burnout manifests in a lot of different ways. And I think there are a lot of different things that leaders can do to support people. I think one of the things that they can do is just support feelings of connection, whether that is connection to the company purpose, connection to the customers, connection to their family, to their coworkers, right? One of the leaders that I work with has really deeply held values around family. And so one of the things that I think he's masterful at is being clear that, hey, June is going to be really busy. Make time for your family now. Right. And being able to help people prioritize, certainly not downtime. Like it's not like not that anything's happening and go slack off, but it's going to get busier. And so plan accordingly, because I know that you spending time with your family is going to be the thing that resources you to be able to get through that mountain climb that is coming ahead. So I think looking ahead a little bit, giving people that clarity, giving people the understanding that you care about them, that you care that they make time and space for family, I think can go a long way.
Yeah, that's huge. We would all want that boss, right?
Oh, yeah, he's wonderful.
So how do you feel corporate America is doing in that aspect of employee well-being? Do you feel like, one, it's even on their radar? And then two, are they even, yeah, okay, that might take care of all the questions, right?
I think, again, there's a little bit of this stalemate where I think organizations are like, hey, we've got benefits, we're offering yoga, things like that. But if people don't have time to take advantage of it, then that's not that useful. So there's a little bit of performative gestures that I think are taking place. This is where AI, if approached well, does give me hope, because really, if the smart organizations to me are thinking about, one, how do we really look at the work differently? What are the things that are going to benefit from having the human touch, human judgment, et cetera? And what are the things that will benefit from AI? But right now, I think so many organizations are just in this swirl of conversations about efficiency, productivity, and we have to add the humanity into it, because in an amazing world, AI would enable us to really be just leaning into the things that we do best as humans: creativity, innovation, relationship building, system thinking, right? Connecting those dots, making space for us to do the good stuff that is energizing and exciting for people, and letting AI and the robots do the drudgery and whatnot. But I think what's happening in a lot of places is they're just focused on, we've got to implement AI like a system and just use it. And without that thinking of the human connectivity, how do we really optimize AI for human flourishing? That's a very different conversation than just having it be about cost, productivity, and efficiency.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I'm a huge proponent of AI in multiple areas, but at the end of the day, it's not controlling us, right? We're making the decisions and have to use it in a way that benefits us. Do you feel like the culture is going to need to move to that in order to survive?
Move to AI?
Incorporating AI in that way and really maybe differentiating how it can work, as well as keeping that human component of, we need people to do these things and we need people to manage the AI so it does its thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we're already starting to see that a little bit. I think a lot of people went all in maybe a little too quickly without having some of these more robust conversations about AI. Like, to give you an example of, in applicant tracking systems, right? So people apply for jobs. So companies said, oh, well, we don't need all these recruiters screening people, screening resumes. We'll just have the AI do that. But nobody really put two and two together that candidates are also using AI to create resumes that the AI system is going to like. And so, in one story I heard from a colleague, now they've had to introduce more humans into the recruiting mix, because now every resume is getting through. And so hiring managers are getting a resume and they talk to the person, they're like, they don't have the skills, but AI said that they did. So now they're having to introduce a whole other human layer into it to figure it out, because the AI is tricking the AI. So, not saying that people are intending to trick it, they're just getting into the system. Right? It's like, help me build a resume that fits this job based on my experience. But it's not creating the filter that they expected. So I give that as one example, but I think there are many more examples where people are so focused on the implementation being quick, which I understand, because you don't want to miss the boat, but then they're not maybe having conversations that they need to be having around, how is this really going to work, and how do we really optimize for it? So there's a lot of throwing the baby out with the bathwater and then, going back and finding the baby.
Yeah. Sticking the baby back in dirty bathwater, right? Yeah. It's a little crazy out there. And I'll ask you because I know how I feel, but it seems like we need to do better corporation wise. Corporations are going to need to make a shift too, as people are saying, I don't want to do this grind anymore. And now I have resources where I can go create my own thing.
Yeah. I think that's what's interesting. I can't remember when the statistic was from, but I read that there's an interesting parallel happening where the amount of job openings were going down, yet the number of LLC filings were going up. So a lot of people, because to your point, you can do things that maybe you couldn't do before. The bar has been dropped. So a lot of people can say, shove it, I don't need your job. I'm going to make it work myself. So I do think there is a future of work that is going to look vastly, vastly different than today. I don't know what. I mean, I have my guesses and my future thinking of what could be, but right now it might sound like it's out of a sci-fi novel. I don't know.
Your crystal ball? Lay it on us, because I'm curious about this. I think that we do need to make changes, and I certainly don't have the answer for that, but I also see that shift, right? And people finally saying, or they're owning that I don't want to do 80 hours a week for someone else and I'm not being fulfilled, right? I'm getting money, but your eyes, for instance, it's not fulfilling my eyes for me.
Yeah. I don't know what will be, but I think we are in a vicious cycle of technology, layoffs, hiring, right? There's got to be a better way because we know the pattern isn't working. And so to me, if we could figure out, all right, what does optimizing look like? What are the outcomes that we need? How do we get clear on those? And then how do we match the machine and the man together to get to those desired outcomes? But we may have to throw out how we've always thought about work, right? In a lot of ways, how we think about work is based on the industrial revolution, which is even before the digital revolution. But we still have a lot of these constructs of the 40-hour week and even exempt, non-exempt, like all of these constructs that we may need to say, let's design from scratch. What would work for the people, for the machines, for the budget, for the outcomes for our customers? How do we deliver value to this broader ecosystem? Maybe it's not in this current state model. And what does that look like?
Right. And that's probably got to be scary for people to even contemplate, right? We throw it all out and start from scratch. Everybody's like, oh, Lord have mercy.
Yeah, but we don't know. I think there are people that are trying different things. I know there's the 4-day work week. They were really looking at, just from at least a well-being perspective, how do we help people at least deliver the same outcomes, but in less time, that enables them to have hobbies and family time and other things and better quality of life. I'm sure some of those practices can be supportive as we look to the future as well. So there are places that are experimenting. If you look at Europe, they have different ways of thinking about things, right? Like you may think in France, right? It's like you can only work 35 hours.
Right.
So I don't know, something's getting done.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't seem to have folded as a country.
Yeah. So where's our play with it, right? Maybe we don't totally get rid of the 40-hour work week, but maybe we can keep playing with different things and see what happens. Yeah. But there is a tent, if you will, right? Of 55 hours is when you see productivity decrease. That's still a lot of hours, but that's where there is actual drop off.
And nurses working 12-hour shifts back to back, and that cannot be safe for public either, right? Not only is it hard on them, it's got to be incredibly straining on the whole system. So I do think there has to be a breaking point at some juncture here.
Yeah.
Well, I know we could go on and solve all the world's problems.
Yes, we can. Just the two of us, Leslie and Lindsay.
That's all right. And it has been a delight. Where can people find you if they're interested in continuous conversation or having a conversation with
Yeah.
you about their own team?
Yeah. So my website is barnettcoaching.com. And the best way to connect with me, though, is on LinkedIn. I try to stay pretty active there. Right now, I just launched a 30-day hobbies challenge. So I am putting some energy around this hobbies concept as a way of supporting well-being, creativity, innovation, connection, all these good things. So yeah,
Right?
that's
It's such a valuable skill to have hobbies. I look at people who don't and struggle. And I know for myself, when my brain's on the super overload, smoke's coming out my ears, then I'll go do something, right? Hobby related. And it's like a whole different aspect. And
yeah.
just let the smoke roll out.
Right, right. Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
it has been a delight and joy to have you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And everybody else, be sure and subscribe because you don't want to miss more powerful conversations like we just had with Lindsay, where like we basically solve the world's problems here, right? Catch you later.